So today I want to get into another disappeared episode. This one was Michelle Whitaker. So when I do these disappeared episodes, I pretty much just go in order. And I think this is the fourth one that I've done, so it'd probably be episode 4 or something like that. Not 100% sure. However, this case hit close to home to me because, man, when they're describing this girl, Michelle Whitaker, and her actions and stuff, it reminded me of someone very close to me, or at least at one point was very close to me. So let's get into it, right? So Michelle Whitaker, she is last seen August 5th, 2002, from Spartanburg, South Carolina. She had, let's get into victimology. She was an alcoholic, or at least she drank a lot. She had been thrown in jail a couple of times for public intoxication. Hanging out at the bars. Basically, she was a party girl. She had been married early. Like right out of high school. It didn't work out. Again, these are drawing parallels to somebody that I know well. And she began to drink. She had 3 failed marriages by the time she was 30. Did not say that she had any kids. She had a dog that she cared about immensely and would never leave. I think it was the day she was released from jail. So she had gotten arrested again for public intoxication. This had been happening. This was at least the second time. Mom and Dad at this point said, you know what, we're going to do tough love. Now, I've been there. And sometimes you feel like that's the greatest remedy for the situation, and maybe it is. But sometimes it's not. In this case, they let her in jail. And they didn't bail her out. And when she got out, it upset her immensely. And her mom had a big blowout. So apparently, as she is getting out of jail at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, she immediately starts drinking different bars. She's bar hopping. And this ends at late at night when she is with, she's drinking by herself. A gentleman named Brad comes up to her in the bar, starts talking to her. She says she's kind of scared of an ex-boyfriend. She was afraid. So right there, okay, there's suspect number 1. Who's this ex-boyfriend? Had kicked her out. She didn't have any place to go. So she ends up going to another couple bars with him, this Brad guy, and then she goes home with him. According to him, she sleeps on the couch. He sleeps in the bed. And in the morning, he took her to a truck stop. Now, why did she want to go to a truck stop? Well, she apparently wanted to go to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, to bartend and make money. Now, she had several jobs, but this one detective who lived next door to her, or down the road from the parents or something, his name was Alan Wood. And he seemed like a great guy. Seemed like he really cared and was passionate about his job. But he even got her a job. Saying that she was an attractive girl, but her mouth got her in trouble. But in all these jobs, she was let go. And the common denominator seemed to be that money was missing. So apparently she was a thief, and she would steal from these jobs. So, back to the guy she leaves the bar with, goes to his house, sleeps on his couch, he sleeps in the bedroom. Now remember, Michelle Whitaker's vanished. This is the last guy that's seen her, and he says he dropped her off at a truck stop in the morning. What do you guys think of that? Okay? Because I know myself initially, you're out drinking late at night, you're a bar harp, you bring home a girl. Do you, as a male, do you expect that you're going to have some sort of sexual relations with her? Maybe. And what if she says no? then what? Are you going to snap? Are you going to kick her out? Are you going to allow her? Guess it all depends on the guy, right? So maybe he's telling the truth, but maybe he's not. What's the easiest way if you had hurt somebody, you had murdered somebody, to say they're gone? You dropped them off at a truck stop. That sounds like an excuse, right? That sounds like somebody I want to look into a little bit more. So, police, of course, want to talk to him. They talk to him. He passes a polygraph. Again, and you guys know how I feel about polygraphs. They don't mean jack to me. So, that he passed it doesn't do anything. Michelle Whitaker is not seen. Okay? Gone. Leaves her dog, who she cared about, would never leave him, according to victimology, and is gone. This guy says, I dropped her off the truck stop. Yep. She said she wanted to go to Myrtle Beach, so they send police officers to Myrtle Beach, comb the area, looking for her. Nothing. During the course of her victimology, it is learned that in 1999, so she went missing in 2002. In 1999, she was raped and beaten. And according to her parents, mostly her mom, it's because she put herself in a situation where she shouldn't have been. Now, I don't know what that means, okay? That is tough love, all right? If you don't find empathy for somebody that's been beaten and raped because they were out at a bar or something like that, I don't know. But this obviously had an impact on Michelle and why she would drink a lot and do some things. She felt that she was not getting the love that she deserved at home. So she goes missing for 3 years. So she's missing in 2002. So in 2005, a letter shows up to the police department with a hand-drawn map saying she's buried 25 miles from that truck stop. Very specific, an educated type letter. They send resources there for 2 days, and they dig, and they send cadaver dogs there, and you guessed it, nothing. I've had that experience. I've had cadaver dogs alert right where a suspect told me that he buried a body 20 years earlier. And when I dug there, nothing. So I know the feeling. During the course of the investigation now, this is 3 years later, there was another female that was brutally murdered by this guy named Jonathan Vick from the same area. He had also been questioned in a disappearance of another girl named, I believe, Tiffany Sellers. Tiffany Sellers had worked, I believe, at the same... No. One of those girls, I can't say which, either Dana or Tiffany, had worked at the same Waffle House that Michelle worked at. So there's a connection there, right? Between this Jonathan Vick, who had been convicted of murdering Dana. So you have to look into that, right? That's a lead. Just like that letter that came in, that's a lead. And as a detective, and I always say this, as a detective, in a cold case especially, that's all you freaking want, is to have another lead. Because it just goes cold. And you've done everything. You've interviewed everybody, and you're just so frustrated. And then it kind of goes to the corner of your desk, and you sit there and you look at it, and you're like, man, what? I've talked to everybody. I've tested everything. And the phone rings. And it's a lead. And no matter how asinine that lead sounds, if you're a passionate detective, that's all you want, is something to follow up on to get some resolution to the case. So in this case, they have this guy, Jonathan Vick, who was killed and is linked to a place. And actually, a witness comes forward and says, hey, I seen Michelle Whitaker on a date with this Jonathan Vick, who's been convicted of murder already, at that Waffle House. I've seen him. So they interview him, like they should, and of course he denies. He doesn't know anything. They cannot make any other connection, apparently, so, I mean, what do you do? Case goes cold. What, 3 more years pass, so a total of 6 years, almost, 6 years. On August 5th, 2008, the day that she disappeared 6 years earlier, the police department gets a call. So, I mean, before we get into this call that's made, let's look at her background. She gets dropped off supposedly at a bus stop. She ain't seen for 6 years. She has a drinking problem. She has a theft problem. As a police officer, you are thinking she is dead, correct? There can be no other outcome. If she was alive, she would have been arrested. She had a history of public intoxication. She had a history of thievery. Thief. History of thief. History of thieving. How's that? So, when this phone call comes in and says, hey, I think I know where Michelle Whitaker is. There's a girl in Oregon. I think I know her. Her name's Michelle Whitaker. Well, that's impossible, right? You get those calls all the time, you know, so-and-so looks like so-and-so. You check them out. Police says, well, send me a photo of what she looks like. As soon as they get that photo, Alan Wood, the detective on the case, looks at it and says, that's Michelle Whitaker. 6 years later, all these resources. Is it her? So they scramble some state police up there to visit, check in on her. She's a little mouthy, doesn't want to go with them. Now they're really like, well, that's her, because that's how she is. They take her to the police station, they fingerprint her, and guess what? You didn't guess it. It is her. Yeah, she's alive. How about that? A disappeared episode where they're alive. Everything, all your training tells you that this girl is dead. Her lifestyle was high risk to be a victim. She isn't found in 6 years. Victimology tells you she would never leave her family. She would never leave her friends. She would never leave her dog. She had no money. She only had the clothes on her back. She didn't take nothing. There's no way she's alive. And guess what? She's alive. So let's use this as a teachable moment. Not everything is as it may appear. Now, why did she disappear? That is almost just important as a teachable moment. You want to learn from this. So that way, when you looked at victimology of other missing people, if it's a similar situation, then maybe there's hope that they are alive. So she says that she felt that everybody was distancing themselves from her family. They didn't want to be around her because of her problems, because of her drinking, getting in trouble, going to jail. She felt that they felt, hey, we're better off without you. Okay? So guess what? She left. She says the turning moment was when she was actually in that Waffle House. She went in drunk, sat down, ordered food, and she had no money to pay for it. And she knew she had no money to pay for it. And the guy that was sitting behind her actually had to pay for her bill. That was her rock bottom. Okay? Doesn't matter what other people feel should be your rock bottom. The victim themselves, they have to know what their rock bottom is. I learned from this episode, first off, that not everything ends in a tragedy. This is a woman who went and got a fresh start. Should she have informed her family? She's a grown person. She can do whatever she wants. She decided not to. She decided to go start a new life. She ended up going to different states. I think it was West Virginia, Nevada, and Florida, ended up in Oregon. She didn't tell anybody. This is the United States of America, and you can do that. The family is not upset with her. They understand now. I understand. And when you look at missing persons, I always say how important victimology is. And you can't rely on other things such as, well, the Alcatraz prisoners, Frank Morris and the Angelo brothers, they escaped. They were criminals. That's all they've known. So they died in that bay because they would have committed more crimes. Well, here is a perfect example of why you cannot believe that. She had a life of crime, and it never came up with her. But victimology would tell you that she felt distanced, okay? That she felt like maybe she needed a new start. Everybody thought she was dead. She was alive. She never gave up, and she fought for her life back, and that's what she got. And she should be proud of that. Her family should be proud of that. As investigators, you should be proud of that. To know not everything ends in tragedy. And it allows you to look at these missing persons cases a different way, maybe. And that's what I learned from this. I'm so glad that she was found. And she was happy. And that's important, right? She was happy. So, hey, this was an easy episode. There's not a lot of theories to be thrown about. Not a lot of what ifs. Boy, it sure looked like she was a victim of foul play, didn't it? And it turned up to be a happy ending. So just remember that if you have a missing person, just when you think all hope is lost, that's not necessarily true, okay? Stay true to who you love. Stay true to the case. See it out to the end, because happy endings here can happen. A good outcome to something that appears so tragic can happen. So that's it for this episode of Disappeared and this episode of Unsolved No More. I'll be back with the next one when I get a chance. So if you want to become a member, become a member. You get early access to all these videos. I respond to questions if you're members. Also, if you're an elite member, you can get to pick a case for me to look at. So that's cool, right? All right. Well, till next time. Main's out.